Major funding for Arkansas Treasures was provided by the Arkansas Natural and Cultural Resources Council and the Susan Howarth Fund at the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay. Additional funding provided by Annette and Phil Harrington, the Arkansas PBS Local Production Fund, and by viewers like you.
Do you have any idea what the book is worth?
It's uncommon to see this.
I think you'll be surprised that it's a little bit higher.
Said I was not going to say wow, but I did anyway. I should have said what?
The lights are shining, the stage is set, and the search is on for the most interesting and valuable collectibles from all around the state. This is Arkansas Treasures.
I would value this at $20,000 to $25,000.
Wow. I said I was not going to say wow, but I did anyway. I should have said what?
She was truly a music lover. Was she playing like in Led Zeppelin?
We're going to Disneyland! Welcome to Arkansas PBS's historic Studio B in Conway. It may be calm now, but soon the studio will overflow with Arkansans curious about how much their heirlooms and collectibles are worth. We've assembled an expert team of evaluators with decades of knowledge in everything from knickknacks to jewelry to art to furniture and everything you can imagine. Sounds like the wait is over. Let's get started.
Thank you so much for coming to Arkansas Treasures today. I'm delighted to showcase this book. Please tell me what you've brought us.
I have a Working with the Hand by Booker T. Washington that was printed in 1915. It's part of a collection that we have at Potts Inn Museum in Pottsville, and it belonged to the family of the Potts, and there was a descendant that lived in the house till 1970, and we believe that this book belonged to James Potts.
Okay, and this is owned by the museum?
Yes, it is owned by the museum.
All right, so what we have here is Booker T. Washington's Working with the Hands. This was his fourth book. This is the first trade edition. There was a subscription edition first that was printed first. So this is the first trade edition, but it's still highly collectible. Inside you have his printed name. It's compliments of Booker T. Washington, and it says it's from the Tuskegee University where he was president.
Yes.
So Booker T. Washington was born a slave, as we all know, and he became a great orator and statesman and advisor to several presidents. And this book does not come up very often, and in its own right is worth quite a bit. But when you add the signature, it raises it a lot. Do you have any idea what this book is worth?
I don't have a clue. We keep it in a safety deposit box, and we only bring it out when we have our festival in the fall.
Well, would it surprise you for me to tell you it's worth about $3,500? Minimum.
Yes, I'm shocked.
It just does not come up very often, especially with the signature. And he's a highly collectible author and American. And I really appreciate your bringing this in.
Well, thank you. I'm impressed.
Good,
thank you very much.
I hope you'll come back with something just as good.
I want to thank you for coming out to Arkansas Treasures and tell me a little bit about what you have brought me to look at.
Well, this is a pocket watch that I got from my father.
Okay.
And he got from his family.
This is an incredibly good watch. Now, in the watch market today, there are many different companies who have merged over time. And we're going to look at the back of the watch in just a minute, but this is an early Vacheron pocket watch. And when I look at the back of it, I'm going to start with the front, but we're going to look at the back of it. It's a key wind, and you have the original key. On the front of it, we see emblems of a village on a river with a boat that have actually been engraved into the front of the watch. That adds a decorative value that's pretty high. But what we do when we look at the back of the watch that's even more important is we open this back up, and we can see that we have Vacheron. Now Vacheron becomes over time Vacheron Constantine, which is probably in gentlemen's wristwatches today one of the most sought after on the market. This is a key wind, but it's also an 18 karat gold case, which even for the time when this watch was created, which was mid 1800s, fairly rare. Have you ever had the watch valued?
No, never have.
Okay,
I've
well,
tried to look it up, but
you know, pocket watches as a whole don't have the same appeal as wristwatches do for collectors. But those that do collect, this would be a particularly good timepiece to add to a collection. And I think in a watch auction that was featuring other comparable pieces, could see between $5,000 and $6,000.
oh, I was thinking hundreds.
Nope, we're in the $1,000 pretty. Now, we don't know if it's working and we're not going to put a key to it.
Right.
But if it was working, that would probably add even more value. But I want to thank you for bringing out just an absolutely beautiful piece of timepiece.
What have you brought for us to look at today?
I have some animated cells from a television series called The Tick from the early 90s, and I found them I worked as a filmmaker in Hollywood
for Disney?
For Disney for a while, but I also worked as a cameraman for many years, and so I was helping them clear out a storage locker that had props and other things, and I found this box that was sealed and heavy, and I decided to set it aside, finish dumping.
Where do they want you to put it?
In a dumpster.
They wanted you to take the box to
I put it off to the side.
Did you look inside of it?
I cut it open to see what was in it, and I saw these cells, and I thought, well, people collect cells, but I didn't think for a show that's recent that would be of any interest or anything, but I hung on to them for 25 years now.
And how many of these were in that box?
About 400.
400 cells.
Exactly. And they all look almost the same, but there are little differences you can see.
Yeah, that's because it took a lot of cells to make the show.
It did, and I'm not sure which particular show this might have been on, but there were 400 of them, and if you do the math with filmmaking, it's 24 frames per second, and each one is a frame. So 400 frames is about 17 seconds of film.
Yeah, it takes a lot of cells.
It sure does, and this would be only a small segment for a whole show.
Of the episode. Yeah, in 1994 they came out with this show, and it lasted for 3 seasons of The Tick. They did have a movie on The Tick, but this was the cartoon version. Pretty interesting find, I think, to save it from the dumpster. You did a good job there. You know what these are worth?
No, I know, like I said, people collect them, but I know that people collect the big ones, like the Disney or the Warner Brothers cartoons.
Most of the ones you see are the Simpsons are pretty popular.
Right.
And you got Bambi and, the Disney classics. The last sale I could see on this particular cell at auction sold for around $90. And that was a while back. And because you have so many of them, I would say the market price, if you tried to put them out there, would be somewhere between the 50 and 75 range a piece. So that adds up to a little bit of money. What do you think?
I agree. Wow. I said I was not going to say wow, but I did anyway. I should have said what?
Yeah, thanks for bringing them in.
But it's amazing. That's great. I'm fantastic. Thank you very much.
Good save.
All right.
Hello and welcome to the show. What have you brought in for us today?
This was a skirt set that belonged to my grandmother. Her brother brought it back after World War II from the Philippines, and I think as kind of like a joke gift. And my mom has had it at her house this whole time. And
okay, well, when we saw this, we all thought, how fun. that you brought back this soldier's gift, or souvenir rather, from the Philippines, and it's marked here on the skirt, 1948, and that it was made of parachute silk. So a number of them were made. This is the first time that I've ever seen one, and we showed it to a number of the appraisers as well. And so it was something that we had not seen a lot of. We thought that it would be great for people to be able to actually see what was in your family and which was preserved. And again, it was a souvenir from soldiers returning from World War II. Did you all have any idea of what the value is? Have you ever had anybody look at it before?
No, I just kind of Googled a little bit and found out that it was the parachute silk before I brought it here, but that's it. That's all
okay. I know. So when we looked out there, there were a few out there on the market that had results that we could give you a value from. And so this set comes in at $50 to $125.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
So now you can take it back and let your mom know, let your grandma know, and we hope that you all will enjoy the fun of it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for bringing it in today.
Vintage collectibles are serious business in Arkansas. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, we recommend checking out some of the countless flea markets around the state, like this one.
I'm Michelle, and this is my son, Dylan. We run Funky Flea Market in Fayetteville, Arkansas. This is a very old building. It was built in 1909. It's just incredibly interesting as far as the beams and all of the carpentry work. We have a lot of really cool things. The first thing that comes to mind for me is we have a gentleman at the top of the stairs who has about 8,000 different vintage records.
Another interesting bit about Funky is we actually have two cats here, Funky and Faye. The previous owner, almost 8 years ago, found them abandoned near the railroad tracks back behind us. Happy, healthy cats. Funky is definitely the star of the show.
We like to think of Funky as a destination. You get to walk around through the maze of booths and you'll find something funky around every corner.
Being a college town that's growing with people coming from all over the nation and all over the world, we get to draw from a lot of influences through our customers and clientele. So it's really nice to be part of a growing community and putting our own funky twist on it.
I want to thank you for coming out to Arkansas Treasures today, and we've been seeing a number of musical instruments come across the door today. But tell me what you brought.
Well, this is a 1957 Fender.
Okay.
It belonged to our mother, and she bought it in 1962 from a friend that needed to sell it.
And the amp as well.
We have the original case, the amp, the guitar, and she spent a week's worth of wages to be able to buy this guitar in 1962.
Well, she was truly a music lover. Was she
Yes.
playing like in Led Zeppelin or an early Rolling Stones?
Yes, close, yes.
Well, this is a beautiful guitar, and it is one of the early Fender Telecasters. There were several things that we were in discussion at tableside about originality and near production. There are some things we've arrived at.
Yes.
We think at some point this whole body was refinished, and it was refinished by somebody who maybe wasn't the best refinisher. Because the depth of the grain and finish work on it is just not quite what it would have been coming out of the factory. We think that is a point against it a little bit. The cover here, we were going to debate back and forth whether there was a cover. I said there was, and indeed there was a cover at one point that was called, I think, the Ashtray.
Yes.
A lot of musicians took that off because they didn't think it looked good.
Yeah.
But I think it also had some interference here with the string work. There are some other condition elements. The facing here is coming up, rising up off the wood a little bit. I think that also is because of a less than adequate finishing job. you know, we've also got the original amp. And what I love about the original amp, this is how I grew up. Most musical instruments and recording devices, things that you play on, only went to 10. This goes to a 12. Spinal Tap. You know, and that's why I can't hear anything anymore, because I played everything at a 12. Have you ever had it valued?
We had a guy look at it, and he said he thought the amp was worth like $5,000 itself, just the amp.
Okay.
We don't know.
So not really the guitar and the amp together?
No.
The amp, it needs a little work. Which I know you said the last time it was playing, but I think it's got some, we think it does have a couple of issues. But if they came on the market together, even in the condition that the guitar is currently in, we think it would bring about $8,000. Okay. The amp another $2,000, but if they were refinished and properly kind of put in working order, $14,000, $16,000 for the pair would not be uncommon.
Okay.
So we really think that this is a great example of some of the early rock and roll guitars, and we hope your mother enjoyed it all of her life.
Oh yeah, she did.
All right,
yes.
Very good. Thanks for bringing it out.
Thank you.
Welcome to Arkansas Treasures.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you here. Please tell me what you've brought for us.
Well, I have some political cartoon, I'm guessing pen and ink drawings by George Fisher from the Arkansas Gazette back in the 70s. And they were part of a collection that were given to my stepfather by, I don't know, by the artist or by someone at the paper.
How many of these drawings do you have?
Over 100.
Oh, wow. Well, you pulled out just a few. Who have you pulled out for us to see today?
I pulled out ones that are particular to Arkansas. Willie Oates, Orville Faubus, Bumpers and Pryor.
Wonderful.
Former governors.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, George Fisher is just an Arkansas treasure himself.
Yeah.
And he was a fabulous political cartoonist and started drawing political cartoons for the Arkansas Gazette around 1974. He had been drawing them for other people before that. Mm-hmm. And he was very well known. He had 15 books came out of his collections. Mm-hmm. So everybody loved George Fisher. These are not original drawings, they are prints.
Okay.
But you have 100 of them.
Yes.
And we're not quite sure who gave them to your stepfather, but what a nice collection.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what they're worth?
I don't. I have no clue.
Well, neither do I. I'm going to tell you. I don't know how much they're worth either. They don't come up very often for auction or sale, and I think they are priceless Arkansas treasures.
Yes, they are.
Thank you so much for bringing them in today.
Thank you.
Linda and Jessica, you brought in a beautiful vase. When I got a picture of this, I knew exactly what it was. Only one factory did this sort of thing and did it well.
Wow.
Then you brought it, and what did I say? Uh-oh, what is this mark?
Yes.
Well, it rang a lot of bells, but it didn't ring the bells I thought it was ringing. It's the mark, I'll tell you the secret, is only turned up on a handful of things from 3 different makers, and it's probably a retailer's mark where it was sold into the American market.
Aw.
You don't? Well, I think it's pretty fun.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
I was fascinated because this was kind of easy for people who know their glass and their ceramics well. In the Art Deco period, Louise Majorelle, who's famous for his Art Nouveau furniture, every major museum has some of his furniture in the collection, did these metal mounts for one of the better known French art glass makers, which was Dôme in Nancy, France. And so they designed the metal mounts, had metal smiths, iron workers create the metal shape, then the glass splayers blew the vase, blown out process. You saw this done somewhere. Tell me about that.
Well, I knew it had to be blown inside this because there was no possible way to get it in there.
Right.
And for people that live in in Arkansas, Missouri, we know of Silver Dollar City in Branson, and I would always go to the glass blower shop and watch them make blown glass. And for years I kept looking at this, and I finally was like, somebody blew this, somebody made this metal frame and then blew it in there.
So I mean, this is a major designer, a very talented metalsmith, a glass artist, and then it gets made in France in the 20s, maybe the 30s. Shipped out to the American market. How did it come to you?
It came to me through my partner's mother. My partner's grandfather was a doctor in Ozark, Arkansas in the early 1900s. Passed away in the flu pandemic in 1918 while his bride was pregnant. And I had seen it years later when she passed it on down in Catherine's house, and I just knew it was unique, and I loved it, and she gave it to me about 10 years ago.
Well, I love a puzzle, so y'all made my day. This was fun to try to research and make sure I knew what I was talking about. And the mark, for those who haven't seen it, you can probably find it online. It'll take you a little bit, but it looks sort of like a Mercedes symbol with a B, an S, and an F. Acid etched into the surface. Okay. If anybody knows what that mark actually means or who the retailer is, I hope they'll contact me, because the glass world wants to know.
I hope they do too.
So you never know where a tip will come from. It's a beautiful thing. They came in a lot of shapes and sizes. We talked about the fact there's more elaborate metal styles that were done. This one's nice though, and it's beautiful. And in the market today, I think this is probably $800 to $1,200.
We're going to Disneyland!
Thank you so much for coming to Arkansas Treasures today and for bringing what is truly a treasure. Please tell me what you've brought today.
Well, this book is called Aristotle's Masterpiece, and although it was not written by Aristotle, it's kind of a medical book, so-called. Printed in Boston in 1766, I believe.
Okay.
And I just bought it online a number of years ago for $15.
Oh my gosh.
So,
oh wow. Well, the interesting thing about this book is it is Aristotle's masterpiece, and it's called a pseudo-Aristotle book because Aristotle didn't write it.
Right.
It was written anonymously, and the first time this book was published was about 1684 in England, and it circulated around and around in many different forms and publications and publishers.
Right.
And it had a habit of getting shut down because it was basically the first sex manual.
Yeah.
And it also gave a lot of advice on midwifery, and of the time was very advanced in describing medical conditions around sex and having babies.
Right.
So it says here that it was printed in 1766 in London by Zachariah Feeling.
Yes.
But actually, as you said, it was printed in Boston by Zachariah Fowles.
Right.
So why do you think the publisher Fowles didn't put his name on it?
Well, he just didn't want to be associated with it if it
went bad on him.
Yeah,
because
deniability.
Yes, because it was often considered an obscene publication.
Right.
So a thing about this book, even though it was printed often in England, in 1766, this would have been the first American printing of this book, which makes it very significant.
Right.
Early medical books from that time are rare. This is considered to be the first, or thought to be the first, medical manual illustrated printed in America.
Yeah,
it is very scarce. It is very rarely seen.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what it's worth?
Well, not really. I've seen a number of prices, but I don't know.
Well, when something doesn't come up hardly ever, it makes it a little bit hard to value.
Right.
But because it is an early medical manual printed in America and an early just printed book in America,
right,
it makes its value greater. It's a cross collectible for people who collect early printed books and early medical books. I would value this at $20,000 to $25,000.
That's amazing.
So I think you did really well for your $15 investment.
Yeah, I'll never do that again.
You have a great eye, and you never know.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing this.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks a
amazing.
lot.
I love seeing this book.
That's incredible.
Well, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what an incredible collection of heirlooms and oddities. And some of those appraisals, amazing. It kind of makes you think what riches might be waiting in your attic. We'll see you next time on Arkansas Treasures.
Have you had fun this weekend?
I've had a ball, Amory. It is everything you said it would be and more for our first Arkansas Treasures.
People ask me, what is the best thing you saw? The best thing I saw are the people of Arkansas.
Right.
It has been a charming time.
I've had so much fun, and even the people who didn't get on camera, I got to hear the most delightful stories about their lives and their parents and their grandparents.
$50 and $75 a piece, 400 of them, that makes it anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. I was very shocked, but hey, saved it from the dumpster. Oh, would I sell it? Yes, I probably will.